All right. Again, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining in our day three forms viewer training. And for those who were not able to join our day one and day two, or for those who weren't able to finish it, we have provided you a link of the recording for those sessions. So let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Yesha, and with me are Joanne and Kirby to demo exciting features that we have for you. And I think Patrick will join us later on. He currently has an eye exam appointment at this hour. Um, so before proceeding with the demos, let's have a quick refresher on what were discussed yesterday on our day two training. And please don't hesitate to speak up if you know the answer. All right, so the first question is, what info path feature are we utilizing right now to create HTML class attribute? Since I was the one who demoed this, let me go ahead and answer that. So the info path feature that we are utilizing right now is called screen tip. Originally, the function of the screen tip in info path is to provide a small window for descriptive text. But thanks to Kaoru, she created a JavaScript wherein we can use this screen tip to provide a unique identification, which is called a class, and this way, the class can be used to apply CSS formatting on that specific control. So for our next question, what Kuros command do we use to load CSS and JavaScript files? I remember Emma joined us yesterday. Hi, Emma. Uh, do you remember what Kuros command we used?
Hello. Yeah, I believe I do. Is it load resource or load resource file?
Yeah, that's correct, Emma. It is called load resource command, and yeah, it's used to be able to implement and apply JavaScript and CSS to your form. So thank you, Emma, for answering that. So for our third question, what are the benefits of using modals or overlays? So, um, hi, Joanne, can you answer that question?
Hello, yes. So I think there are many ways you can use modals or overlays in your forms, but I think it is best used for displaying simple sections like small parts of your form that you want to display in a pop-up modal, like approval section, and you can also use overlays for displaying help sections, like what we did in the course directory form, where um, we are displaying an overlay when you click the lab links there. And I think Kirby showed you a different way on how to display an overlay using a button on up in the header. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Joanne, for that very clear answer. So yeah, there's so many benefits of using the overlays. You can use it when you want to get information from the user, for example, a sign up or a login form. You can also use it when you want to show additional information without losing the context of the parent page. So again, thank you, John, for that, for your answer. So let's go ahead with our fourth question. So what do you call the rectangular window that appears docked on the right or left side of a page or a form? So I can see Richard is here. Hi, Richard. Do you remember what that rectangular window is called?
Is it called a task pane view
Yeah, that is correct.
or
So
debug
it
view or
Yeah, that what you said is correct. It is called task pane, and you can use that in your forms to display information, quick links, or call to action buttons. So it helps users complete tasks quickly without even closing the current page of the form. So it's a very great feature So thank you, Richard, for remembering what it's called. Thank you. So we have uh, one question left. So our fifth question is, why do you think using CSS and JavaScript is beneficial when building forms? So let's have Kirby answer this.
So yeah, I think using CSS and JavaScript is beneficial because with CSS and JavaScript you can change the look and feel of your forms by changing the layout, the design, and yeah, like what we've demoed yesterday, it was possible to like provide floating labels, the overlays, the bug slider, and also the task pane. So those are really nifty features that we have right now in FormsViewer with together with the help of CSS and JavaScript.
Yeah, thanks, Kirby. I agree. And implementing CSS and JavaScript gives you the standout advantage because of its added design, flexibility, interactivity, and even its responsiveness. So that's wonderful answer, Kirby. Thank you. Um, and now let's proceed with our day three labs. Let me go ahead. There we go. So, for day three, we are going to talk about ways to automate approval workflows. So for lab one, Joanne will demo the approval links specifically for Flow, which is using Power Automate. And then for lab two, Joanne will demo again the approval links, but this time she will be showing you how to in Dbxl. So Dbxl is not just for submitting forms data to your database. It also has a notification feature, which we are very excited to show you later. And for our last lab for day three, Kirby will then demo Central Flow XTP, which is very exciting because this is a new Qdabra workflow solution to your forms to be able to add form approval feature. So we are very excited to show you these features. So let me go ahead and give the spotlight to Joanne. Joanne, are you ready for your first demo?
Yep.
All right, so let me stop sharing and give you the spotlight.
Okay, I'll share my screen. All right. So the package for Lab 1 is now available in the course directory form. Just go to the day 3 section and download the package for Lab 1. So our topic for Lab 1 is creating approval links using Flow. So I will show you how to create notification emails using Power Automate. So it's now called Power Automate. And we're going to send out links that will help your users or your approvers to instantly approve or reject the forms without actually opening the form. So download the package, and if you've downloaded that already, you're gonna have it's not included in this package. Anyway, so you're gonna have the starter form, the expense report library STP, because we need to submit the expense report to a form library, and then you're going to get the flow.zip file. So we have created a Power Automate flow in our site, and we've exported that so you can import that to your own SharePoint Online site. And also, of course, you have this instruction to follow step-by-step instruction, right? Okay, so what you'll need FormsViewer because we are using FormsViewer links to open the approvals in the emails, and then SharePoint Online because Power Automate is in SharePoint Online. And also, once you have Power Automate, you're going to need to have an SMTP connection and then a SharePoint connection created in your Power Automate. Sorry. And then the flow file that we are providing for you to import, and then the expense report library STP, like I mentioned. Okay, so I'm gonna go to my forms viewer here and show you the end form. We're using the expense report sample once again for this sample. We've used this over and over again for our demos, our training, and this already has the workflows that we need to demo for this lab. All right, so before anything else, my form is using the get user profile by name query, so it automatically queries my name there and the manager name, but I need to hack it because we need to send the email to my email address so I can show you that it sends out the email. And just spelling it. And I will submit my expense report. Okay, so my expense report is submitted now, and it is submitting to the expense report library. That's why I mentioned you need to have the expense report library app deployed in your SharePoint site. So this is the one I just submitted a few seconds ago, and we have a status column here. So that is a field in the form that is promoted in this form library. So we're just gonna wait for that email. There you go. So actually it took some time because we noticed that flow sometimes it's not instantaneous. Sometimes it takes 3 minutes to 5 minutes to send out the email. And that is what you'll experience when you have a Power Automate free license that comes with the E3 or Enterprise trial, or Enterprise version of Online 365. So okay, so what I just did there is I clicked the approve button here. Sorry, I did that really fast, but when I click approve, you see that the form status is now changed, and it's displaying the updated status there. And if I refresh my library here, so the form I just submitted changed its status to approved. So I don't really need to select a status in the form and click submit here again. So I just click that link there, and the parameters in that link takes care of updating the status in our form. So that saves your manager a few clicks, right? And makes their job faster. Yeah. Okay. So let's try to reject. Click reject. Yep. So status is changing there. So once again, the status here just change. And let me show you the Power Automate flow that is running in the background here. So this is the expense report notifications flow, and I have exported that so you can import that to your SharePoint site, and I'll show you how you can configure that later. But for now, I will show you what's here. So the first condition here is that it will run this flow when an item is created or modified. So in the form that I just submitted, so it just created an item in that form library. So this condition the condition was met for this flow. That's why that triggered this flow. And then I'm running or initializing some variables here because I'm going to use that for the FormsViewer links. So sorry for that. Okay, so I'm using a combination of variables. So this is for the approved links. I also have a separate link for reject. I'm just initializing it here because flow requires you to initialize the variables before you can use them in your actions. So this is the variable for the form library, and this one is for the document part. And this one is important because you're telling your flow to send the email if this condition is met. So if status is equals to this value submitted, so it will read that form library, right? And if it detects that one of the items submitted is equals to this value, the status is submitted, then it will run these actions underneath. So it's just like you're developing a workflow using an if-else format. And so if that is met and if it's true, then it will continue on this. I'm setting the approved link here. In addition, I am adding the source. So this is the form library variable that I have initialized earlier in the document. And then together with some dynamic values from the form library. So I also have my form name here and then the manager grid. I think this is just part of the security process for manager approving the form. But I haven't really tested. Maybe you can take that out. But for now, I just included that. And then, so same for my reject link here. I'm using the same format. Okay. And then this is the SMTP action to send an email to manager. And it doesn't always have to be an SMTP action. It can be a plain send an email action in Flow. Let's see. So if I'm going to type send email here, you're going to see several options. So Power Automate gives you several options for sending email. And here you can select Office 365 Outlook. So there are other options there. But I think that when you use Outlook, it requires that you're sending the email to another person in your organization that has an Outlook as well. So That is why we're using SMTP, because SMTP can send to external emails, even if the user doesn't have Outlook, if they have Gmail or any other email accounts, we can use SMTP for that. So that's why we're using SMTP for this flow. Okay, and in the from box, you will supply the email address where the email will be coming from, and we noticed that it doesn't really need to be a real group email. I think that it can be an imaginary group email with SMTP. I think that we've tried that many times and it worked as well. But of course, the to address should be a real address. And in this case, we're selecting a dynamic email address value from the form library. So that is really a nice feature with Power Automate. It's giving you options to get dynamic data from the form library where you're setting up your flow or a SharePoint list, right? So in this case, we're using a form library and we're getting these dynamic data from that form library. And before you can display this dynamic data in Flow, it has to be, the columns need to be promoted. So they need to appear here in your form library. Okay. And the way to do that is to publish your form to the form library. And in this sample, you no longer need to publish the form from info path to form library because the STP we're providing you already has those columns. Okay, but in case you're doing this on a brand new form, so watch out for that. If you want to display the columns here, you need to promote the fields in your form and publish that to the form library. Okay, so that's the manager email. Subject can be static, just type in whatever subject you like, and can also be a combination of dynamic data as well. And for the body of the email, don't be intimidated with this HTML. I didn't actually write that, but let me show you how. So I selected SMTP, right? Or type in SMTP and select this send email SMTP and type in it appears there, the group name. Okay. And then add dynamic content manager email address subject. And the body, I just type it here. Hello. And I can add dynamic values. I'm sorry, status, status. I can select the status here. Status of the form. Let's see, we can also include several other details like the total of the expense report and stuff like that, just to give the manager a glimpse of what the form content is. And then the links, right? So I added links here. Click to approve or reject. So click to approve or reject. And after I type that in, I will highlight the link or the text that I want to convert as link. And then I click this link button or hyperlink button here. And I just type something. I think that's what I did. Sorry. And then same for reject. Just type something there. And then I will click this code view button, and it will convert that to HTML. And then here I can insert the variable that I've been using here. So I've already set the approve link here and then the reject link as well. So I'm grabbing that from here. And also here. So make sure that you put it inside the href. Oops, sorry. Should be approved, right? Oops. See? Approve. This will be reject. And that's it. That's it. Yeah, so that's how easy it is to build the body of the SMTP email. I'm gonna delete this. That is for demo purpose. So, okay, so I just gave a brief overview of what the flow is doing inside. So next, I'm going to show you how to just browsing here, how to deploy the exported flow to your own SharePoint site and create the SMTP and SharePoint connections. So I am accessing a different tenant site. So this is Yesha's test site. And I just want to show you that we have deployed the form library here. So the expense report library is already here. We didn't create it from scratch. We created it using an STP file. Yeah. So if you don't know how to create form libraries or list using STP, just let us know and we will assist you. But since the STP is already available in this site's list templates, I can just click new and select app and find that STP in the site. Okay, so that's how I created the expense report library here. And then for the flow, click on the app launcher in your SharePoint site and select Power Automate. And click My Flows. And as you can see, I already have deployed the flows a while ago. I'm going to delete it. Delete. Okay, so we're going to import the flow that is included in the package. Oh, okay, upload. And so you're going to select the expense report notifications flow, that's zip. Open that and just wait a while the package is uploading. It's reading that package. Okay, and then what you need to do is click this toolbox icon and select create as new because you're creating a new flow. Click save. And then Power Automate SendGrid This is the SMTP connection that we use, and we use SendGrid to for our SMTP account. So if you don't have an SMTP account in your SharePoint site, you need to create one. So just click here to create a new SMTP account. You don't have an account yet. And I think there is a default or a built-in SMTP that goes with SharePoint for free, I think. So I think that you can use that. In this case, we're using a SendGrid SMTP. So I'm selecting that and click here for the SharePoint connection account. So the SharePoint connection account simply has to be the account of the user designing the workflow. So I'm going to select Yesh's account, click save, and click import. So let's wait while it's importing. Okay, so once it's all green, you're ready. So like my flows, doesn't show right away. I have to refresh the page. Okay, so I will click here and click edit. So you see here, there's a problem with the flows trigger. That's expected because the links are still pointing to our Qdabra SharePoint site. So what you need to do is repoint the links to your own site. And that's what I have added as instruction here in the document. After you have imported the flow, you will need to repoint the links in the flow to use your SharePoint values. So I've highlighted the part that you need to modify, and I'm going to show you where to get that. So the SharePoint site normally be the root site, but if you're using a sub-site, you can enter the complete site that you're using. So I just deleted the Qdabra site there. Click enter custom value and paste. And just leave the list name there because we're going to use the expense report library, form library. Okay, then for these initialize variables, we're going to need to go to FormsViewer to get the FormsViewer links for our form. So we're using the expense report form. Just gonna look for that. I've already uploaded that here. And the expense report form is here in the package as well. Just upload that to your forms viewer and it will, you don't need to modify anything in the XSN because we're running dynamic thesis there. We've applied the topics that we've discussed in the lab. So this is using dynamic theses. So I'm just gonna copy the URL. Opening Notepad. Okay. Making sure of the content. So I will highlight this part up to the template name parameter, and I will paste the actual FormsViewer link here, also in here. And just leave the status parameter there because that's the purpose of this variable. For the form library, we're going to go back to the site and get the form library link. Okay, just copy that. Okay. Paste it here. And then the document part, just copy this part here. Then for the set approved link, we're also gonna use the template from FormsViewer. So highlight this part up to the template name, replace that. And also this. Okay, and that's all we need to do. And I hope that's not too complicated, but let us know if you run into any issues importing the flow into your SharePoint site. I think that's it for lab 1. Because the last part here is test the form, open the expense report, in FormsViewer, just fill that out, and just make sure that you are getting the flow email here. Okay. So any questions for this lab before I proceed to the next lab for email notifications using Dbxl? I guess not. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and proceed to the next lab. Just gonna go back here. Post my Power Automate. Training day 3. Okay, so after showing you what can Flow do or what can Power Automate do, I'm now going to show you how you can add notification email using Dbxl. So in Dbxl, we also added an ability to send out an email, and there's an interface for doing that in the Dbxl administration tool. I'm going to show you that. And then I think that the benefit is the same because we're using the same one-click approval link where the user just clicks on the workflow link and the form status automatically changes to approve or reject. So if you haven't done it already, just download the package from the Lab 2 hightailing. Okay, so switching to my Lab 2 folder here, package. So when you download the package, you're going to get the expense report, Dbxl starter form, the lab instructions, and the Qdabra PDF rendering service zip file. So this is the installer for the PDF rendering service. It's a tool, it's a separate tool from Dbxl, so you need to install that service in order to enable the notifications in Dbxl. Okay, so let's open the instructions. Okay, so I have indicated all the prerequisites that you need to do before creating the email mapping in Dbxl. So this lab assumes that you've already obtained the PDF rendering installer. You can download it in this link, or you can get the installer in the lab package. And then you need to install the PDF rendering service. You can follow this document on how to install the PDF rendering service. And if you get any errors, we also have a troubleshooting document, which I've also included the link here. And I'm also planning to show you how to actually install PDF rendering service. I'm going to try that later. If I still have time after my demo, I'm going to show you how to install the rendering service later. And Dbxl version 3.3 is required. Obviously, we assume that Dbxl is already installed in your server. I can also show how you can install Dbxl, but it could take up some time. So it's also very easy to install. So you can just go to our website and grab the trial installer from there, and it will send you the installer link. So just follow the instructions for installing Dbxl 3.3 if you don't have it yet. And then you need to create a document type in Dbxl. I've showed you how to do this in day 1. And there's a quick how-to video clip that I've included here. And it's very easy to do. So I think it's just very straightforward. So maybe you can watch this short clip on how to add a document type in Dbxl. So just clicking new configuration there and browsing to my document type and entering the doc type name and save. So it's very straightforward. So I just added a short clip there. What else? So you need the expense report template uploaded in FormsViewer. And Dbxl key, you need to get the key. So just follow this document so you can have the Dbxl key. So let me show you the end form for this lab. So again, I'm using the expense report, and this expense report is also submitting to that same expense report library here. Just gonna delete the ones that we've already submitted for test. Okay, so again, I'm gonna enter my email address so I will receive the email, and then just filling the form. And submit. And like I showed you in day 1, lab 4, submitting to Dbxl, we're using a Dbxl XTP to submit this form to Dbxl. So I just click the debug slider here, and I'm just looking for that submit to Dbxl command. There you go. So this command just ran successfully. So it generated this document 497. That's the doc ID. The doc ID is the unique ID in Dbxl. I just heard my email sent. So yeah, so it's almost instantaneous. Dbxl, the service is almost instantaneous than Flow, I think. So the format of the email from Dbxl is also the same. And then I also have the approve and reject links here. So where is it getting this email body? Let me show you in DAT, but currently my Dbxl administration tool is thinking. Okay, so I'll go to Dbxl. So when we say Dbxl administration tool, this is the one we're pertaining to. It's the web version of a web interface for uploading your doc types and configuring the settings for your document types. So this is my document type expense report. And what I just did is I uploaded the XSN that's included in the package. So I created the document type here, and I added a permission for the user. So like I mentioned, you need to generate a key for a user. So that user is added here so we can submit to this document type. Then, so this is the email mapping part. Okay, so this is the interface for creating the email workflows in Dbxl. So the first thing you're gonna enter here is the mapping name. So I just entered manager email, and then you're gonna select the rendering process that you want. There are several options here. So I selected these 3 options. So when a new document is submitted to Dbxl, and when an existing document is modified, so I check that. And sorry, this actually is a different process. Action to take on the rendered PDF. So you can opt to send an email with attachment. And this part, you can leave that blank. This PDF naming is for when you need to generate a PDF version of your form and actually save that PDF in the server where Dbxl is installed. But we're not doing PDFs right now. We're just sending notification emails. So I'm leaving that out here. And next is additional condition. So this is the condition that I'm using for my form. Just like what I did in Power Automate, we have a condition there to trigger the flow emails if the status is submitted. So where is it getting this value? I just wanted to show you what the form is doing. So in my submit button here, I have a logic to trigger the pre-submit field in the form logic secondary data source. So I have a pre-submit field here, which is a bunch of rules, right? So I'm setting the form status here to submitted. Okay, so every time this button is clicked, it will set the status to submitted. So that's the condition we're looking for. If the form status is submitted, so if it reads that the XML file that you're submitting to Dbxl has a status submitted, then it will trigger the Dbxl email notification. Okay, so that's the condition. And then archival location, you can just leave that blank. Like I mentioned, its purpose is to archive the PDF files, but we're not using PDF files right now. Then this part is important, the rendering contents. So we're going to use this. Right now, I'm using an expat expression for my email subject. So the subject that you're seeing here, this subject line, is generated by a formula in Dbxl. So that's what this concat formula is doing. It's concating Dbxl expense report from this person or this expat, which has the name of the person submitting the form. So the manager knows who is submitting the form. And so it's been assigned to you for approval, then status. I've got my status expat there. Okay, so when you select expat expression, you need to use a formula and use an expat expression. But you can always do static text if you want, just plain static text if you don't want to use expat. Okay. And for those who are not familiar with expat, you can get the expat of the field by just going to your main data source and selecting the field, right click, and copy expat. Okay, once you copy that, paste that in Notepad, it will give you something like this. So that's the expat. And then for the body, I'm going to use a view in my form, which is the email view. Okay, so what you're seeing here is a view in my form that is in here as well in the expense report form. So I just selected page design and I switched to the email view. And I have a section here. It's just a plain white section that has some dynamic calculated value, displaying the manager name and text, right? So I'm also using the approved and reject links here. So I think that in my document here, I forgot to include that you need to modify the hyperlinks here. So I apologize for that, but don't forget to edit the form and modify the link here because it should be pointed to your own forms viewer. So right now the link is this, and you're gonna need to edit the part up to here. Yeah, so up to there. And I think that you're not gonna get that just by opening the template. Let's see. So click day 3, open. Oh, and also make sure that when you upload the form template in FormsViewer, you have to name your form template expense report. So this is the naming convention that I'm using in the links. So just gonna expand my notepad here. So up to the template name, you can use the open form link just like what I did. So I just click open form and I grab the URL in the browser, and so this is the template link. So up to the template link, look for that. I can't even see it. Oh, anyway, this is the template name. Sorry, my mistake. So up to here, up to FormsViewer, not the template name. So up to FormsViewer, paste that. Actually, it's the same. Yeah, because this is the same site. And then For the source, so the source is this up to here, up to .aspx is the form library link. So you can open the FormsViewer link from the form library and copy the source here up to here and paste it in here. And for document, you need to, sorry, this is a little bit tricky. So maybe next time we can modify the form to be, or to take dynamic links instead of you having to to go through the parameters here. So document here, see that parameter there. So copy that up to here before the expense report form name. Then paste it here to there. Right. So that's all you need to add here in the form. Just copy paste the link that you just created and click OK. And do the same for reject. For reject, so this is doing reject. So the only difference is that the parameter it's taking is rejected status. So I think that you can just reuse the same link here. So you're only going to do this once. Just for the second link, just modify this to rejected. Let's delete this. Copy that and paste it here. Like that. Okay. So that's how you build the FormsViewer links. So that's what you're seeing here. As you can see it, the parameters has the values already for my form name. My the manager grid is there, so we're good. So if I click here, let's try to click approve. It will work the same, just like Flow. It just changed the status to approved. So let me refresh my library. Let me go back to my form library and check if the status changed to approved. Yeah, so it's approved. And if I click reject, it should be rejected. Okay. There you go. Okay, so those are the links from Dbxl. As you can see, Power Automate and Dbxl just works the same way. With Flow or with Power Automate, the drawback is sometimes you have to wait 5 minutes before the email will be received. So with Dbxl, because the web service is really fast and you can receive the emails instantaneously. And I think with Power Automate, you can also receive the emails instantaneously, but you need to get a premium account with SharePoint in order to get that feature. But when you have a free, when you're just using a Power Automate free license, then that is the drawback in that area. So, okay, does anyone have any questions before I show you how to install the Dbxl PDF rendering service? If you have any question, just feel free to send those questions in chat, and I will try to read them later. Okay. So if not, no questions, I'm gonna switch to the server where Dbxl is installed. I hope you can still see my screen. Okay. So in this server, this is where Dbxl is installed. So you can see I have, this is the control panel. I have Qdabra Dbxl server edition here. So that is Dbxl. And I have the Qdabra Dbxl rendering service here. Excuse me for a moment. Okay, so since the Dbxl rendering service here is already installed, we will try to uninstall it, and I'll show you how easy it is to install it. So I'll uninstall it. Okay. So in the package that we're sending you, we've included the Dbxl rendering service installer. So just click on the setup.exe, right click, run as admin, and let's just go through the wizard. So by default, this is where it's going to install the files, and then click next, next. Okay, so for the site, so you've got 3 tabs here. We're now on the first tab, which is site. It's just a little bit small, so just be patient with this window. So Dbxl web service URL. If your Dbxl is on Azure, sometimes the fully qualified host is really long like this. So I'm going to copy the fully qualified host to be sure. Wait, so up to here, up to Qdabra web service with the, yeah, without the slash, yeah. So that's the Dbxl web service URL. Click next. So by default, the web service will run under the network service account. But if you don't want to run it under the network service account, then you can configure another account here to run the service. But right now we're using the network service account. Okay, then in the email part, email tab, you can type in the group email that will send the emails, and then display name for the email. This can actually be configured later. We have a config file where you can edit that later. And then the subject line, again, this is for just for default sending of emails. You can always override that if you have an email mapping in your doc type, just like what I showed you. So SMTP. So this is where you're gonna enter your SMTP account, and I need to stop sharing. I'm just gonna get something from my notes here. Okay, just getting the accounts or the SMTP account. I'm gonna share my screen again. Oops, sorry. Stop sharing. Okay, back to the server. Just gonna get it from my notepad. Sorry, I didn't anticipate this, that I have to enter the account. And it's not actually pasting
You have
it.
an extra carriage return. You just need to, yeah, you have an extra carriage return in the clipboard. Joanne.
Sorry, Patrick.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Yeah, so you have an extra carriage return at the top of that when it's pasting.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I'll just enable SSL and click finish. And installation complete. And then, okay, so I'm gonna check the Qdabra event viewer here for any errors. And I always do that when I install any Qdabra tools. So as you can see, there are no errors. And then I just need to make sure that the web service is running, and it's showing running here. Just selecting automatic.
Did you install from scratch, Joanne?
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
But I demoed the notifications before I uninstalled the rendering service just to make sure. Okay. And then I'm gonna refresh the event viewer again just to make sure there are no any errors. And there we go. We have an error. Let's see. Okay. So if you get an error like this, normally you can always you can easily fix that from the config file. So go to program files, Qdabra software, Dbxl rendering service, and we have a config file here. So open that in Notepad. And here you're gonna enter the server name. So in this case, the server name is this. And we need to enter the exact Qdabra utility that is created in Dbxl. So this is the database that comes with Dbxl. We have Qdabra Dbxl and Qdabra utility databases, so they are internal to Dbxl. So I'm just gonna get the name of the actual current Qdabra utility database here, which is this one. The latest date there, Qdabra utility test. Don't miss my notepad. Yeah, test. I forgot test. Yeah, so just save the config file and then try running the service again. So let's just stop it. And before running it again, let's clear the event viewer. Clear log, clear. And start. So it's running, and let's check. So no errors. So that's how you fix that. It's actually a known issue or unexpected error in Dbxl. So you just need to modify that manually, the config file. And after you verify that the Dbxl rendering service is running, then you can start configuring the email mapping in the doc type, and it will send out the email like what I showed you. So
And you showed how to do the user keys yesterday or Monday, right? Or Tuesday. With regard, you're connecting from 365. Did you show how to use the user keys? Submit with user key.
Yeah. And we have a form provided for lab 4 in day 1 to help them generate the key. So
yeah.
So that's it for lab 1 and 2. Yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to throw that in chat and I will try to answer your questions. In the meantime, I think that we're gonna have a quick break. Yesha, is that right?
Yep.
And
So
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Thank you, Joanne, for showing us how to use Power Automate in action, which is a really great designer tool for us to execute simple or even complex workflows for our forms. And also, you showed us how to configure DBXL's PDF rendering to send email notifications. So, thank you again, Joanne, for those wonderful demos. But before we proceed with our quick break, again, do we have any questions for Joanne?
I'd just like to add a comment. This is Patrick, and thanks for starting the class today. I forgot I had my eye appointment today, and everything's healthy there. But I just wanted to make a few comments. Looks really good. We're going to be presenting after the break this other approach, which is the flow-based approach. For those of you who have Power Automate, it's a centralized, generic workflow for forms that does not use Dbxl. And the difference, I think you covered this at the beginning, but the benefits of Dbxl over something like Flow for sending emails is mainly the fact that you get more instantaneous notifications and that you have a WYSIWYG editor, which is the view in your form for the email bodies, which makes it really nice. And the fact that you don't have to pay the licensing fees in Power Automate. The downside with Dbxl is that you do have to install this other component. And reminders are more difficult. In fact, we don't support reminders right now. Things where you have like a 10-day reminder when it's overdue or something like that. But we are actually planning to take this next solution that Kirby, I think you're going to demo this, but the next solution, the central flow, which we've worked really hard on over the summer to help customers with old SharePoint Designer 2010 workflows, get their workflows upgraded to Flow before the end of life, November 1st deadline that Microsoft has imposed. We've worked really hard on this and it uses Flow today, but we expect to also create a version of that that uses Dbxl in the future. And the other thing about Dbxl that you have to keep in mind is it's not just about notifications. The reason we created it was because we wanted to create scalable solutions that, when SharePoint hits its 5,000 or now it's 50,000 max, and you can't query the stuff or you can't open views, that becomes a performance issue. And it happens anywhere between 10 and 20,000. We have customers at 50,000 rows, but they're not doing a lot of complex views. So when you do have a large solution, you're gathering a lot of data, you need some way to scale it, and SQL is great. And so we created this solution in Dbxl, which we call an accelerator. We created the accelerator back in 2004, and it's been with us ever since. We've got hundreds of organizations using it. We have a new release coming out soon with a few additional web methods, and just wanted to make that comment. Sorry for taking up so much time. Thank you, Yesha.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again, Patrick, even for joining us tonight, trying to join us. Thank you for that, also for that wonderful intro for the central flows, which again Kirby will demo later on. So before Kirby demo that, let's just have a quick break, and we'll be back at 10:31 a.m. Hi everyone. So I hope you were able to reload and refresh your minds during that quick break. And let me go ahead and give the spotlight to Kirby as she will now demo the Central Flow XTP. Kirby?
All right. So let me start sharing my screen. Okay, so what I'm going to demo for Lab 3 is our Central Flow XTP. So to start off, I'm gonna start showing you a sample leave request form that we have here, which has the XTP. So what is Qdabra Central Flow Solution? So it's actually a reusable template part that you can use to add an approval process to any form in just minutes. So the benefits of using this is that you can have a consistent approval interface for all of your forms, which is very important. So it will be easier for the users to adopt to the look of the approval layout design if you're going to implement it in multiple forms. So in here we have the XTP. Also, the XTP has this task pane. And also, if I click on this button here, the XTP has this workflow step table that admins can edit to customize each step in the approval process. So admins can define what actions or buttons will show in the task pane. Admins can also indicate the assignees. And here we can set due days to control overdue reminders. So this solution also includes email notifications via Power Automate. So when someone updates or submits a form, the assignee will get notified. And approvers are also notified when an item is already overdue. And as part of this solution, we also provide an approvals dashboard. So let me just open that in here. So this is the dashboard included in this solution that shows all of the form assignments, as you can see. And it also shows, let's see, let me go to the other tabs here. You're going to see that these are the forms that I have submitted. And here we have various forms like the leave request. We actually have here test form and the quick status form. And we also have here a tab for all of the forms that are assigned to me and also grouped by the form type here. And in here, we can show all of the forms that are using the approval XTP or the central flow XTP. And in here, we're actually seeing the overdue items that are highlighted in yellow. So this is a nifty feature when we're setting due days for approvals. So the dashboard also offers a way for the admin to set delegates or proxies if approvers are out of office. So we have here the proxy list where the admins can create proxies for those approvers that are, for example, on vacation. So, and lastly, we have here the admins tab here. These are all the admins that can, use the workflow step, that can see all of the features that are only visible for the admins, like the workflow step table earlier, like this one. So this solution is only for sequential approval chains. So it doesn't support parallel approvals for now. Um, so the parallel approvals, we would like to add that in the near future because we're continuously adding more functionalities to it. So all right, so here's our leave request form. So as a form user, Here's an example of what I can see in the form when the XTP is implemented. So we have here the header where the form name is placed and is locked at the top of the page. So if I scroll, it will stay put at the top, as you can see there. We also have here the task pane, as I mentioned earlier, which I can hide and by clicking the close button there, and open it again by clicking the approval icon in there. So the task pane shows the current user and the email. We also have here the form status, a comment box, and the action buttons. For example, for this form, we have the save and submit. And then we also have here the slider, which we also demoed yesterday. We can toggle this by clicking the history icon here at the bottom of the form. This is helpful as it shows all the steps that the form goes through. Therefore, we can track who updated the form and the date and time when it was updated. But right now, it doesn't show any records yet since this is a new form. So next is the admin button. So uh, there are buttons here that are only visible for the admin. So one is this pencil icon here. Admins can override the status of the form because there are cases when it's necessary in order for the approval process to move forward. So the admin can just go ahead and any status in here. All right, so next is another icon for the admin is this one, the person with gear icon. So if I click on it, it will show this table that will show all of the workflow steps specifically for the leave request form. So basically this table is the backbone of our workflow solution. I know it looks like it's just a simple table, but it's powerful because this is where you can control what happens in each step of the approval process. So for the leave request form, we have 2 entries for the form step from new. This is going to be the initial status of the form. We also have here the button column. So when a user creates a new form, 2 action buttons will be displayed, the save and submit. So same with the others, if for example, the current status of the form is submitted, then we will see 2 action buttons, the approve and reject. So for this form, we have 3 different workflow steps, but you can actually add more for your forms, which means there's no limit when it comes to adding approval levels. So if you need 4 or 5 levels of approvals in your business process, then you are free to add more steps in the table. So next in the column is the next step 2, which is going to be the next form status after the button is clicked. And next is the step label. Is also available if you want to display a different label for the status in the form. And here we have the assignee column. This is where you specify the assignee for each approval step. So there are specific values available to use in this column here. We actually added here recently a tooltip that shows all of the available values that you can enter. So one is current, which assigns the form to the current user. So whenever the status is new and the user clicks the button save, then it will still be assigned to the current user. So another value that is being accepted in here is the manager, which assigns the form to the current user's manager. We also have the previews. This will assign the form to the previous user who updated the form. And you can also specify an email address like this one or a mail distribution list. And lastly, you can specify a security group name or SharePoint security group name if you want a specific member of that group to be the assignee of the form. And last column is the due days. So this is for specifying the number of days when the approval request is going to be overdue. So for example, we have added here 5 days which means the manager or me, myself, only has 5 days to approve the form request. Once the due date is reached, then an automatic email will be sent to to me or the assignee of the form to remind that there's a pending request to approve. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's try to open again a new form in here. Okay. And let's try to create a new leave request form. So let's add, let's say start date, and our return date will be October 20 next week. I'm just adding here random values. And in every save or form submit, the assignee will be receiving an email that summarizes the change that is done in the form. So let's try to submit this, submitting for approval. Example, that's our comment, and click submit. So it will take a few seconds to arrive in our inbox. So this the email will be triggered by a Power Automate flow. So let's wait for that email to arrive in our inbox here. So our email should have a link to open the form and also an external link to open the form. So let's wait for a few seconds more.
1 second.
You can probably hit the send receive update. There it is.
Yeah, so here we go. We received the, this is the default email that is being sent by Flow. So we have here leave request submitted by the user, which is me, and assigned to you. All right, so let's view the form. And as you can see, we can now see other buttons here, the approve and reject buttons. So another useful feature in the XTP is the form locking feature. So it prevents users from editing the same form simultaneously. So let's try opening this same form to using another browser. So let's try opening it in here in Microsoft Edge. I'm actually signed in here using Joanne's account. So let's see. Let's see what it looks like when I open the same form. And all right, so in here, you'll see that I'm assigned in as Joanne, and Joanne will see this note here that says Kirby Laborte is editing this form. So this is a very nifty feature if you don't want users to, edit the same form at the same time. So next is next feature that I'm showing you. I'm going to show you is the Authy feature. So let's see. Let's open a new leave request form here. Sorry. So if you have external users that need to use your forms with central flow, we provided an additional layer of security for your forms with a third-party tool embedded in the XTP. It's called Authy. So it's a two-factor authenticator app which uses a verification code to authenticate a user. So thankfully, we have here the anonymous link in FormsViewer that you can send to your external users to open a form. So this means they don't need to have their own SharePoint accounts. So that's why we added the Authy feature so that you can still track the external users who are using your form. So now let's try opening the form anonymously by clicking that button there. And if you're an external user, you're going to initially see the Authy screen, and will ask you to log in using the
first letter of your first name followed by the first letter of your last name, then the last 4 digits of your mobile number. So, but if you're a first-time user of the form, then you need to register first by clicking the sign up here. But since I'm already registered, I'm no longer going to do that. And I'm going to go ahead right now to enter my credentials. So that is KL2787. Oops, I have an invalid API key error here. Let's see. Let's go. Wait, I'm gonna just check if I'm still at the users in the users list. Maybe I'm not yet registered. Let me just double check that. Looks like I am. Let's try again. I'm not sure why I'm seeing this.
Have you ever seen that before?
Here. No, this is the first time. Well, maybe I can just try. I can just try deleting my record in the users list first, and then try to register again.
I could check Twilio and see if our account was deactivated for some reason. I'll do that.
All right. I'm just gonna quickly register again here using my number. All right.
If it doesn't work for me or you on the second time, then it may be because in the form there might be the key might be misentered.
Yeah, you're right. Let's see. Maybe I wasn't able to, because in the XTP you need to have the Authy API key in order for the Authy to work. So let's try checking the leave request that is uploaded to FormsViewer. So let me just quickly check that here. Going to the Authy secondary data source. Yes, you're correct. Sorry about that. The Authy API is missing here. So let me just quickly paste that in here and then save that again.
You know, it's a live demo. That's what you're really trying to show people. This is not smoke and mirrors. It's actually live.
Yeah. All right. So hopefully that will resolve that issue. So let me try to refresh again the page. And since I deleted myself already, let's see. All right, so let me register quickly here. Okay, let me. All right, so I'm just gonna wait for the. All right, I already received the code, so that is 5550731. So there we go. It automatically, we can automatically access the form by just entering the verification code sent to our phone here. So yeah,
that's really great for people who have external users that aren't necessarily going to be logged into SharePoint. That's good if you have a lot of external users that are infrequent users of SharePoint. You don't want to give them a user account, but you still want them to take part in a form process, a form automation process where you're either asking them to submit something, like if you had a vendor submitting an invoice or some kind of a request for PO or something like that. And then also for instances where you have employees who are on their mobile phones where they're not necessarily going to be logged into SharePoint, and you want to give them the ability to approve stuff on the go when they're out of the office and just off their cell phone.
Yeah. So that's for the Authy demo. And the next feature that I'm going to show you is the user proxy feature. this is similar to approval delegation. So if I refresh our dashboard here, let me just close those tabs. And let's say Joanne is on vacation and she needs a substitute to approve any pending form requests she has on her plate. So we have this dashboard to create the substitutes or proxies. So let's try to create an entry under the proxy list tab here. So let's click, let's
Is that
search
your
for
dog, Richard?
Joanne.
I can hear I'm going to guess
Yeah.
it's a smaller, medium-sized dog, not a huge dog.
So the proxy user will be me. And let's click my name there. And for the valid until date, let's try until Monday. That's going to be valid only until Monday. So let's add that proxy entry there. So there we go. That's added. And you're going to see that the icon here this icon will appear. And we can now see all of the forms that are assigned to Joanne. Let's see. Click the forms, and as you can see, there are no forms that are created by Joanne, but there are some that are assigned to her. So let's click on this one here. And since we are a proxy for Joanne, we're going to see a message in our task pane here that says you are in proxy mode. So that's how the user proxy works in the XTP. And the
That's great.
last,
That's sorry, let me just cut in for a second. That's really great for people that are on vacation. They need somebody to work on their behalf.
yeah. So the next feature that I'm going to show you that are also included in the XTP is the custom email feature that we just recently added. In here we have the envelope blue button here. So if you click on that, you can see that we can actually customize the emails that are being sent to our assignees. So let's say we're going to customize the email when when the status is new and the user clicks the submit button. And let's try to customize the email for our assignee there. So let's say that is our subject and simple greeting. And let's try to type in the request has been submitted. And then our email or the flow will automatically insert the link to open the form in here. And then we don't want the second paragraph, so let's skip that. And then we have here this new feature that we just added, the add dynamic variables. So if I click on that and insert field there, we can see that we can add here the values of our fields inside our form. So this is the leave request in the InfoPath Designer, and we want to show in the email the start date, for example, and the return date, and also the reason. So let's try adding that by copying the XPath of our start date. Click copy XPath, and let's add the label start date, and then let's try insert another field, the return date, and copy the XPath of that field as well. And lastly, we're going to add the reason and copy XPath. And we also have here a function where you can organize the fields here and the labels. So you can see it changes So yeah, so let's just retain the default, and then let's just add, you can also add last paragraph here, but we can just keep that. And let's just add a simple signature here and click save email format. All right, so once that's done, let's try to open another form here, another leave request form, and let's try adding values again here. All right, so again, and let's click submit. So this should trigger the email that we just customized. And let's wait again for Flow to send that email. And by the way, we have here, let me just open the workflow table here again. So we have here the approval tab for setting the assignees, and we also have here the notifications where you could also add, let's say, if, for example, the status of the form is new and then the user clicks the submit button, then you can set a person's email in here to be notified. So these tab is just for notifications, and then you can also add a customized email in here, just like what we did under the approvals tab. So there we go. We just received the customized email. So not sure why the dynamic variables are not showing in here.
Did you submit it or save it?
Yeah, I submitted it, so it should be in here.
You could check the list to see if I guess they didn't get added for some reason.
It looks like that's a bug there. I actually tested this, maybe. Yes, sorry about that. It's actually a bug in the XTP that I applied in the leave request, but I've actually tested that earlier and it's working. So this is a sample email with the dynamic data that I added in the form. So this is an example email where we have the start date that I entered and the return date and also the reason. So I'm going to try to investigate that later after this training and update the package in the lab. And yeah, so the next thing I would like to show you is how to add the XTP to a sample form. So we have here the leave request sample. Let's click design and let's add our XTP by going to this control section. Click add and select template part and search for our central flow XTP. So this is that package I just downloaded earlier. So click the central flow XTP, click finish, close, and we've actually named the XTP initially approvals, but yeah, that's why it's showing approvals there. So let's click the approvals XTP that we just added under the custom section here. All right, so as you can see, this is our XCP, and we have here the instructions that we need to do. We have 13 steps in here, and these are all of the sections inside the XCP. That's for the customizing email. This is the Authy section, and this is our slider there. All right, and the XCP added a bunch of fields in here. As you can see, there are a lot of fields added, and in order for the XCP to work, we're going to add some configuration. So let's go to Qdabra rules, secondary data source, go to finish loading, and we're gonna set the run on load node in the XTP logic secondary data source to have a value go. So all of the rules under that node will be triggered. So these rules will be triggered on node. And next is we're going to go to this temp command, same as what we did yesterday in the labs. And we're going to replace all of the values in here to point to the actual Qdabra rules nodes, like the command and, oops, sorry. And the temp result, we're going to add here our Qdabra rules result node. Same with the success and the error. All right, so once that's done, the next thing that we need to do is to go to this values group in here and go to the workflow state. And in the first action here, we're going to copy this preceding sibling function, because the reason why we added it in here as a static value is that because it doesn't work whenever the XCP is imported to a form. So we're going to actually add that to the function area here. Click OK. And we're going to do the same thing for the other repeating groups in here, like this one. Paste it in there. And then in this workflow step table, we need to click the trash can icon here, go to delete new row, and we're gonna copy that, cut, and paste it in the function area. And next is go to our main data source. We also have here preceding sibling function. So we're just gonna do the same thing. In the first action, copy that, paste that in there. And also for the notifications group. All right, so next is, I think we still have other steps here that we're missing for the preceding sibling functions. So we're gonna go to XTP logic values and then email variables there. So this is for the customizing the emails, and I'm gonna select the first arrow there. Click this, go to move up rule, and copy this value, paste that in the function area, and for the down arrow there, we're going to go to the move down rule and do the same thing. And I'm going to copy here. It says select the down arrow and edit the rule named hide, and change the conditional formatting to the expression and paste the formula. So we're going to copy that, and go back to our custom email section here. Select the red arrow, go to the hide formatting rule and create this as the expression, and then paste that rule there. And then
Those are all to work around the bugs in the info path designer when it adds it, right? We're going to make sure we don't have those bugs in Forms Designer that's coming out later this year, early next year maybe. I mean, I think the upshot here is that you're going to be able to do this all within a few minutes, and you're almost done even, right? You're step 11, right?
Yeah, almost done. Yeah. We're just going to add no, it's not the last step, but we're going to add submit data connection because we don't have a submit data connection yet. So we're just going to go to our leave request library here. So this is where we wanted the form to be submitted to, and click document library on SharePoint side, paste our library there, and for the file name, we'll select the form name under the workflow group in our main data source. Click OK, click Next.
You probably want to allow override if it exists, right?
Yeah.
You want to go back and check that?
Uh,
At the very bottom.
yeah, we can check this, but we're sure that the form name is unique because it has the
They might
timestamp.
have to submit it again, right? So if it exists, like it's a workflow process, so when it's saved once, saved again.
Yeah.
It's using the same timestamp from the beginning or for the subsequent ones, right?
Yeah, it's using the same timestamp when the user submitted it. So I've renamed that submit. So I'm going to go to the XCP logic secondary data source again, go to actions, and in here we have a submit node. And I'm just going to add another rule here to submit to library. And we're going to select that data connection. And next is we're going to add Authy, the Authy API key. So going to the Authy request, run onload. Here we have the set API key that has the asterisk. And then we're going to copy our Authy API key here. So in order to generate this Authy API key, we actually added a separate documentation for that you can follow. Here it's called create Authy API key. So you can follow the instructions in here and go to the Twilio site and just follow everything in here. It's all the steps are in here. And after you've done all of this, you're going to generate the Authy API key.
And you can do that for a free account, right? You don't need to give them a credit card or anything, right?
Yeah, it's for free. And then, and lastly, we're going to add the data or the details for querying the security group. So that is under the actions, same XCP logic, secondary data source, and go to run onload. In the MS graph node here, we have the set MS graph values. So to know the client ID, client secret, and directory ID, we also have provided a separate documentation for that, because in order to query security group members, we need to add an app in Microsoft Graph API. So you have to register an app and create a client secret. Client secret, and yeah, it's pretty straightforward and easy to follow. So you're just going to follow that in order to produce this values in here. So I've already done that. So I have the values in my notepad. that I'm just going to copy. So here, find secret, and last the directory ID. Right, so that's about it for configuring or updating the XTP
That was
to
about
work.
10 minutes. That wasn't too bad.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot. last one. You have to move your actual form inside here, in here, where it says add form in this section. And I'm just gonna put this at the center. And here you're gonna see that it says add form name here. So we're just gonna change that to the request. So that's it. That's how you can configure the XTP in order to work to your form, in your form.
You have to add I mean, you've got lists that you have to create as well, right? The workflow list and the approval.
Yeah, that's correct. So this is just for configuring the XTP, but of course you have to prepare your environment, right? So I provided a separate deployment guide for that. So you have to create the SharePoint lists. Those are in here. Let's see. In the deployment package, we have the STPs. So these are all the lists that you need to upload to your site. I know there's a lot of lists.
Yeah,
in
but once
here.
they're uploaded, it's just going to use those for all the forms, right? So that's the beauty of this, is that you've got
Yeah,
this centralized approach.
centralized.
Yeah, and it's really just 10 minutes to add to each form, and then you got the consistent UI, you have a consistent dashboard. You get all these features that we've added. You don't have to do it yourself. You can look at them, you can look at the rules, but you don't have to worry about the time it takes to add all of those rules to your form. I think that's the main benefit of the XTP is there's so many rules that you've got in here, because you're doing both the admin and the task pane. You know, the admin settings are also available in the form, which I think is really useful for people, because one of the problems we see with SharePoint is it's just so hard to jump around, you know, get into SharePoint Designer, get into Power Automate. So just why not put it right there in the form, so that if you are an admin, you can just go and modify it on the fly. And I think that even though that seems a little bit strange to have the admin workflow features right there, I think that that is going to enable much easier use and modification, customization. That's the hope anyway.
So, so yeah, after configuring the XTP, you can save all of the changes in the form and upload the form to FormsViewer. And then you have to configure the workflow steps in our table. So we just show you the workflow step here, all of the steps that you want your form to have. And then you need to add users, of course, in the admins list. And next is, yeah, already said that. And lastly, you need to import the Power Automate flows, which is also included in the package here. So we have the workflow notifications and also the flow for the overdue items. And that's it. That's all you need to do to implement the central flow solution.
Let's get some feedback. Do we still have anybody on the call? Emma, Benjamin, or Richard, are you there?
I'm here.
Yay. Did that just blow your mind completely, or are you still awake?
Well, it's a lot to take in, but it looks very interesting. What piqued my interest at first was the fact that it has the dashboard for multiple forms. Is that correct? Multiple, approval dashboard. That's looks pretty handy. So yeah, that's pretty neat there. Request. Are all of those the same fields, the same columns They looked, yeah, they looked, so you're using a consistent set of columns, it looks like, for the
Yep.
most part.
If it's pulling it from that workflow list, I believe. Is that right, Kirby? Is
Yeah,
it-
that's right. Yeah.
Assigned to status, label status, yeah.
And the other cool thing that Kirby didn't show here is you can actually edit the comments on the fly. So let's say you're like an admin and you want to come in and just make a comment on something like blocked on so-and-so or whatever. You can just go in and quickly add it here and then click the save button there. And then if you expand it on the left there, you can see there's a little caret icon on the very far left. If you expand this item, you'll see all the historical comments, including the ones that were added by the dashboard. Those first, so it's basically added the current comment, sample comment into the header line. And then the previous comments, you can see I demoed this yesterday and added 2 lines at the top to show somebody else the same thing. And then the other comments were added from the form. This is just a nice feature for admins to be able to quickly go in and make a note on something, like just so that they have like if they're waiting for an approval on something that's happening that's not in the form, they could add a note there for that. I really like this proxy mode, Kirby. I'd never seen that before with those buttons on the upper right. When you want to get out of proxy mode, you just click on that left button, right?
Yeah,
that's
right.
pretty cool that you guys, that UI is very, very, very intuitive. Yeah, that's very nice. What is the question? Right. What is the question box there? The question circle at the right below that?
Yeah, this is the help section. How to use the dashboard.
That's all new too. That's great. Cool.
Is that using that feature, the pop-up feature that?
Actually, that's just the show hide right there. That's not even an overlay. But you could make it an overlay. Yeah, that would...
yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's just a hide and show.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Richard, for that comment. We're just trying to deliver value every time we think about these new ideas. We're trying to encapsulate them in some easy package that you guys can use to upgrade your forms. Emma, are you still there? Did you have any questions or comments for us on this last lab?
Oh, I'm still here. I thought that all 3 of the labs today were really great. We, at this moment, Greylock does not make use of this type of workflow for managing our submitted forms. I'm not entirely sure what solution we're going to go forward with. We have a larger product that's in charge of our automated workflows that we're trying to tie our document storage into. But this is really, really interesting. I think Nicole walked through this at one point because we did have forms that kind of had some of this implemented in it, but this is my first time seeing it as a whole working as it's meant to in a system. So it's really cool.
Our real target with this was to replace SharePoint Designer, and we still have, like Kirby said, there are going to be parallel additions to this. Parallel workflows end up being about 5% of the total. Most of the workflows out there are sequential back and forth with a single editor at a given time. The parallels provide simultaneous voting. For example, if you've got a candidate coming through an interview loop, you want to have people typing in comments about that person in live time at the same time. So the parallel stuff is going to come hopefully next month. And the other thing to point out here is that most of the time in these server-based workflow engines like SharePoint Designer, well, actually, which is just the SharePoint workflow engine, but then you've got Nintex, K2, and a gazillion other providers. They tend to be doing 4 things. They tend to be sending notifications, send an email or whatever. They tend to be moving something from one place to another, changing the permissions, or creating a sub item like a task or some other new form. Those are the 4 operations that we see have to happen on the server. That's it. And then everything else really should be in the form because that's where the context is. You don't want to force the user to go somewhere else to approve it, right? And have a UI that's different. You want them to be in the context of the information that they have to approve, which means they're in the form. And so all of the logic that is wrapped around that process has to be in the form so that they have context. And that's what a lot of these server-based engines just didn't realize. It came back, I mean, people would add it to the forms, but then they'd still have to go to the workflow engine to do these other things. And here we've kind of encapsulated all in the form. And those four operations are just in the flow, and the flow is just one flow for all the forms. So.
Yeah, one thing we looked at Nintex a while back, and what drove me crazy about that solution is I'm pretty sure, like, in order to approve something, you had to click on a link that took you out of the form,
Right.
and do an approval task.
Exactly.
Then you've lost it. You just get sort of mixed up, and so I was not.
Where Nintex really shined, and this is kind of their sugary sauce, or what do you want to call it? They really did well at demoing the visualization of the flow. We expect to add a more graphical visualization, and you see with Power Automate now, they just totally ripped that off. Well, they just created their own. Now in Power Automate, you can do basically the same kind of visualizations. They're even better. That Nintex, I kind of was the first to do. And I think that Nintex and K2, because of Power Automate, those sort of, Microsoft has moved up the stack, vertically into that space. And I don't think those companies are going to survive because Microsoft has such a lower price point now for Power Automate. But of course, then you can do it for free with our thing. So that's another benefit. I mean, you have to pay for the flow stuff. We are going to create a Dbxl option. A Dbxl isn't free, but it's like one cost for the whole year. So it's fixed versus flow, which will be user-based, although you get free. Yeah, sorry, Richard, go ahead.
What does this cost? I take it, is this an additional cost?
No, this is free. So you get this all free as part of FormsViewer customer and training. So there's nothing in here that we charge for. It's all just a sample that we give you.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. We do charge for Dbxl, and that is just a flat fee on you install the server. We actually include support, so that is a flat $2,500 a year minus your discount if you're a nonprofit, which is our max 20%. So very inexpensive, and then that actually includes 4 hours of help to install it, configure it. So when you factor those hours out, it's really cheap because it's unlimited. Now you do have to set up your Azure service. If you're running it on-prem, you've already got a virtual machine. You don't have additional costs. But if you're wanting to put it in the cloud, then you will have to pay Microsoft between $50 and $200, depending on how much usage you have to run that virtual machine. And we've got configuration notes on that, the requirements for that.
For the Dbxl, you mean, or?
Yeah. And so I think that the sort of the turning point, or what we call it, the decision point, is when you have more than like 4 or 5 forms that are scaling. In other words, you're collecting thousands of items per year. And rather than archive this and go through the lengthy maintenance nightmare of that, just use Dbxl because it'll scale to millions, right, for each one. And then you can do reporting consistently across the whole data set for each of those. So once you have 4 or 5 forms where you're collecting 1,000 items or more a year, that's one decision point. Okay, then Dbxl makes sense, right, for those guys from a SQL angle. And then some customers, then they want to use it for PDF generation and email notification, things like that. And there are some obviously huge value props there against Flow if you're using a database to query, because Flow requires a premium connector for that, which costs money. So if you've got a lot of flows that are querying a database, you could just do it from FormsViewer without the flow and then use Dbxl for your email, right? And that's another what we call it decision point there when people have a lot of premium connectors. They don't want to pay for all of that because it's user based. You probably get it for free because you're a nonprofit, right? I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure I was about to ask Alicia. So the type of licensing with the flow is like the standard licensing, or do you know what it's called?
Yeah, you get the standard for free as part of your E3 or whatever it is you've got. And then if you want to query SQL to include data, like let's say you have a database that you want to now start to surface in your forms, which is a pretty common thing. You want your forms to query some data that you have in a third-party system. Now you can use Flow to do that, but they're going to charge an extra cost. If you go into the, where is it, Kirby? I think it's underneath. You're in pricing. So you need to search for adapters, and I'm trying to remember where it is. But if you, they used to have, it used to be SQL was free, and then all of a sudden a year ago they changed it. And now SQL is a premium connector, and that really hit a lot of people hard. And
the flow that does not have the instantaneous email, that's the like Flow standard
right,
life.
that's the free one. That's the other thing that people complain about, and that's why we did the Dbxl demo as part of Lab 2, or Joanne showed that, because that is instantaneous. Well, for all intents and purposes, it's instantaneous. It is not completely synchronous, but it is not like Flow where you have to wait for 3 to 5 minutes per flow. And if you've got a lot of flows, like we had one customer that had, like, their process was you submit it, and then one flow kicks off a number of other flows, because that's kind of the best practice, is you want to design your flows to be reusable. And the way you do that is you make them smaller, but then you have a bunch of flows, each one of which could take 3 to 5 minutes. And then you've got a 25 to 30 minute process just to get an email out. So we moved them completely to Dbxl, and now it's just instantaneous, or well, it's within a few seconds. When we did our webinar demo in April, showing the difference between Flow and Dbxl, we actually showed SharePoint Designer too, but we showed them all coming in as email, and Dbxl was first, and then SharePoint Designer was second, and then Flow came in a few minutes later, and that was just one flow. So that's also a decision point.
Yeah, the other version of Flow that I guess you pay for to get the instantaneous, do you know what that's called?
I forget, but yeah, you can do it. You can just upgrade it, but then it's per user. That's the problem, and then that may end up being a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're paying something per user with our, I'm not sure, but I just don't know if
how many users do you have?
We have around 250, 300.
Yeah, so you're right there. I mean, Dbxl would probably save you money to do that. Then, if you've got 200, 250 users with an extra flow package each for them, that would be just one. I mean, you could just save money just doing that. Now, having said that, I still think Flow is awesome. I think Power Automate Flow is really a great product, and they're anyway. So, but if you're just doing notifications, you certainly don't need Flow for that. You can use Dbxl.
Okay. Okay. Well, it's definitely something that we may want to visit next week when we look at our POCR form progress.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good.
And Alicia will be there for that, and
yeah, we can set you up with a free Dbxl trial for 3 months, and you can just try it out, and more than happy to upgrade you to use that, and then you have it, for all your forms, and hopefully it will save you time and money. Curry, was that it for your lab demo? Are we at the end, Yesha? Where are we at?
Yeah. So that's actually our last lab for the day. So thank you, Kirby, for doing that in-depth demo regarding the Central Flow XTP. Let me just quickly share my screen and go back to our slides.
I'm so sorry to interrupt at this point. I'm being called into another meeting on my end, so I'm going to have to jump off a bit early, but I just wanted to say thanks so much for the demos today, and I will be here Friday. So
look forward to that.
Thanks, you, Emma.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So let's just quickly go through the day 3 summary of the Automate approval workflows for this training. So for the lab 1, Joanne showed us how to use the Power Automate in action, and that it's possible to configure your notification email and add form links to the emails and be able to automatically approve or reject forms. And for our second lab, Joanne showed you how to install the Dbxl PDF rendering service. She also showed how to add the email mapping in DAT, and also how to add form view for email formats to be able to have notifications from Dbxl instantaneously. And lastly, um, which is such a powerful uh, feature, because there's, as mentioned earlier, there's a lot of features within the central flow. There's dashboard, there's query security groups, there's proxy, admin, authentication features, there's a configuration of a workflow process, which, let me highlight, can have multiple level of approvals, and you can also customize email notifications. So just wow for the central flow XCP also. And as mentioned earlier, you can achieve all of those features in just minutes. So again, what a great demos. Thank you, Joanne and Kirby. And before ending day 3 training, I guess we've already done our takeaways, right?
So
So
let's
let's
just
just
Right.
try to skip that. But if you have any feedbacks for us, don't hesitate to email or send it through chat, and then we'll
What
be
happened to his
reviewing
other? What
that.
happened to his other leg? His one-legged owl.
Yeah.
we didn't notice that.
Looking curious owl. So uh, again, thank you for all of you who stayed here, and thank you again, Joanne and Kirby, for the demo. So I'm giving back the stage to Joanne to quickly discuss what you expect for tomorrow's training. Okay, so Joanne.
Yep. So just like to mention that Benjaline was here also earlier, but she had to drop off. So yeah. So day 4 preview. Um, will show you how to extend your forms with new features. For lab 1, we're going to show you how to add logic to your forms so that you can force inactive users to automatically log out. And then for lab 2, we're going to show you how to add that custom command that allows for opening links using button. And you were already able to see that using the training form. We're using that technique there. And then for lab 3, we're going to demo how to add auto refresh queries in your form. So these are like scheduled queries, and we're using custom command also for this. Then lab 4, I think that Kirby is going to show you how to use the delimited command and rules to allow you to concatenate the values of a, for example, a repeating field, and then you can separate each value with a specified delimiter. I think that this can be useful when you have email addresses that you want to concatenate, uh, things like that. So you're watch out for that tomorrow. And then lab 5. So that's about limiting text box character, and uh, you've seen this already in Authy, where the verification code automatically goes to the next digit because it has reached the character limit, which is 1 digit only. So that's the technique we're going to show you in lab 5. So that's day 4 preview. Hope to see you again tomorrow, our last day of training class.
Oh, one more thing. Sorry, before Richard used that comment, one more thing I wanted to say is that we're going to do a quick demo of Forms Designer tomorrow too, and show the latest features that we've added to
Oh, yeah.
Forms Designer. Richard?
Yeah, was working mainly with the CSS lab yesterday, and everything went well with the lab. And I tried to put the lab into practice, and I was, the lab shows using a basic text field, and so when I tried to put it into practice using some other different types of fields, like a date field and a people picker field, I'm not getting as good as good as results as what I was seeing with the lab. And I wondered if there's time for us to take a look at that now, or if
Yeah,
not.
yeah. I'll stay on. And I want to thank obviously Joanne, Kirby, and Isha for these late night training sessions. I know you guys start late in the day, so it's not like you're working too much over, but it is quite late there. So hopefully you can log out now and get some sleep. Wonderful job, by the way. You want to stop the recording, and then I'll continue with Richard and look at his CSS issue.
Sure thing. So let me stop sharing so that Richard can share his screen. And then let me stop the recording.